Hey, this is the World Advice Channel too. What I want to talk about today is the topic of why is conservative entertainment so bad? So when it comes to conservative entertainment, like for example, that streaming service, Daily Wire and all the entertainment they have on it, to things like Babylon B, which is supposed to be a political uh, commentary parody channel and other things out there. The question that obviously comes up for anyone, even without personal biases being attached, whether you're left wing or right wing, is of course, why is conservative entertainment so horrible? Why is it so unfunny? Why is it so boring, so unoriginal, and all those things? That is what I'll be discussing for this video. And when it comes to answer that question straight up, it comes down to many different reasons, but the first reason is, simply put it, that conservative entertainment, just to put it bluntly, lacks one of the main fundamentals that it takes to make good quality entertainment, which is a knowledge of a variety of topics, okay? Because the truth of the matter about conservatives in general is that most conservatives have very little knowledge about anything for that matter. And if you're in America, and we ain't talking about no freaking Taco Bell ass America, like Tex Mex ass America, like, in other words, like watered down America, like you go to um, America when you're crossing the Canadian border past Niagara Falls, you just step foot in America for the first time, like watered down America, or like even Fort Lauderdale, kind of America, like places that are clearly watered down for tourists. Like when you're actually in like real America, like authentic America, where it's like 95% or more Americans, you're just surrounded by pure Americans, like really in America, the heartland of America. The truth of the matter is, you start to realize that a lot of Americans don't really know much about what's going on in the world. And a lot of Americans, as well, specifically when you're really in America, especially the Midwest and the South, have never even left their state for that matter in their entire lives. That's the truth about America. A lot of them don't really know much about the world and don't have a knowledge about a variety of topics, okay? So, as a result, if you obviously lack knowledge on a variety of topics, common sense is going to indicate you're not going to have much inspiration for things you're coming up with, whether it's nonfiction or fiction for that matter, okay? Because to come up with a lot of ideas, come up with a lot of ideas for that matter, which is one of the most important things to making good quality entertainment, covering original, interesting ideas. You obviously, of course, have to have a knowledge about a variety of topics, whether it could be a variety of world events that happen, or this and that, or even a variety of different cultures that exist, whether it's for nonfiction or fiction, like I was saying before. Because obviously, if you don't have much knowledge about what's going on in the world, in all honesty and stuff. Specifically, I'll just use nonfiction as an example when it comes to the example I'm trying to give for the topic point I'm getting across. When it comes to nonfiction, or I should say fiction, my bad, fiction, that's what I meant, okay? Like to come up with interesting characters, interesting societies, and all that type of stuff, you have to have a lot of inspiration for those societies based on knowing about a lot of different cultures that exist, whether it could be, maybe Native American culture, African culture, Asian culture, oceanic cultures, whatever. You get the point. Like, you have to have a knowledge about a lot of different topics if you want to write a good fiction story, because a lot of the ideas you're going to come up with, even if it's a completely made up world, will still be based in some way, shape, or form on other cultures that exist. Most conservatives are racist, so, or at least a good portion of them, especially real authentic conservatives, are racist. So if you're not interested in knowing about other cultures, and let alone races of people, because you think they're inferior to you, then obviously as a result, no shit, you're going to have a very limited amount of ideas you can come up with for fictional societies. And when it comes to nonfiction, it's no different, because if you don't care to know much about the world, because everybody who's not a white, specifically Anglo Saxon white American, is considered to them, of course, inferior, which most of the world is not white Anglo-Saxon Americans, the truth of the matter is, as a result, you're not going to have a wide variety of topics because you refuse to look up a lot of different information about nonfiction based situations, world events, whether it could be things that happened thousands of years ago to hundreds to even in recent history, because you're like, oh, they're all inferior to me. So that's one of the main reasons why conservative entertainment is so freaking horrible, because they lack a variety of topics, because they're not willing to learn too much about the rest of the world. So that's the first point. The second reason why conservative entertainment is so terrible is due to the fact that they're not willing to talk about a variety of topics, okay? If anything. And this time when I'm referring to topics, I'm referring to it like how I was referring to it before for the last previous point. For this point, the second point, I'm referring to a lot of topics that, like, in this case, are like social issues and things like that, like things that relate to, for example, religion. Aside from religion, maybe topics like, inequality, inequality in terms of wealth, another one could obviously be gender inequality and all that type of stuff, okay? Specifically, the main two for that matter, okay? Which would make the most interesting content, okay? Those are not topics conservatives are not willing to discuss because it makes them feel uncomfortable, okay? For that matter, okay? And a lot of them are Christians, no surprise. So they don't want to talk about anything that comes off as even slightly offensive to Christianity in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So as a result, a lot of their topics that they make just come off as like, propaganda points instead of actually making you think and wonder and question things. There's a lot of good movies that question things that Christians would hate, whether it could be things that make you question what is reality, what is not real, and what's not, which is a common theme in movies. To the idea of, is it possible, to the idea of aliens, perfect example, because Christians historically, not as much anymore, but historically have hated the idea of ideas of aliens because it goes against the idea that God is, of course, of course exists. The Christian God at least exists because the Christian God, according to the Bible, is a human appearance. But if there's other beings that exist outside of our planet, then why would he have the human appearance? So it goes against Christianity's fundamental core, which of course Christianity actually, when you look at it, is human centric. So that's what they don't like. So they don't like to focus on topics related to aliens. They don't like that type of stuff. And they don't like to talk about the interesting dynamics of like wealth inequality and so on and so forth. That's the truth of the matter when it comes to conservatives. So all their media is boring. It just comes off as trying to promote something, that is just evil, and evil instead of something that makes you question things, okay? And to add to that as well, to put it bluntly though, the third point, which is going to be the shortest point, is it also simply comes down to the fact that conservative entertainment tends to lack one of the most important things that, of course, is needed to make entertainment good, which is actually having believable good guys, okay? Because most of these people, the evil things that happen throughout human history that happen, whether it could be the conquistadors and the evil things they did in the Americas, or it could be another one could, for example, be maybe the British when they conquered the world, to even Americans for America's foreign policy and stuff. According to these people are heroes. What those groups of people did, or I should say, those groups of people are heroes. What they did was good and positive. So when you look at it that way, that's how they think. So if you're gonna have like a story and you're saying, okay, we went to this land, let's just say it's America in its early days, we colonized the Native Americans, we're somehow the good guys, we'll just randomly go around shooting and killing every village of Native Americans we see, somehow we're the good guys. How do you sell that to people as a interesting, innovative story? And not even it's an interesting, innovative story. For that matter, if you're not a fucking psychopath, how do you like sell that to people as them being believable good guys? And that's one. And those are three main reasons why conservative entertainment is so freaking bad. Okay, and if there's a moral to the story, okay, especially being a left wing person like myself, it just shows you, as the saying goes, don't just listen to everything you hear people say. Okay, don't just listen to somebody who talks shit. As history shows, let alone common sense, street smart shows, the one who talks the loudest is the one who's the most scared. So if somebody talks a lot of shit and always likes to put people down, then probably they're even worse than you. And when it comes to entertainment, liberals, we dominate that because we're actually good people. Okay, for the most part at least. It's just the radical left had to ruin everything for everyone else with the wokeness. But historically, when you look at it, left wing people know how to create entertainment. Conservatives don't know how to create entertainment. So, in short, to answer your question, hopefully this serves as a lesson to people, and I hope you learn something. And this is off the saying.